1. We're taking a closer look at a real gem from the past, a 1975 Plymouth Duster that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And get this, it's not just any old Duster, but a dead ringer for the one driven by the legendary Al Bundy from the hit TV show Married with Children. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller is asking $7,950 for this beauty, which might seem a bit steep at first glance. But when you consider the nostalgia factor and the overall condition of the car, it starts to make sense. According to the seller, this Duster is in good condition, with a clean title and just 59,000 miles on the odometer. It's got a 6-cylinder 255 motor under the hood and an automatic transmission, making it a breeze to drive. The exterior and interior are all original, which is a testament to how well this car has been maintained over the years. But let's be real, the biggest selling point here is the Al Bundy connection. I mean, who wouldn't want to cruise around town in the same model car that the shoe salesman extraordinaire himself drove? It's like owning a piece of TV history. Of course, as with any old car, there are bound to be some issues. The seller doesn't mention any specific problems, but it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection before making a purchase. And while the brown paint color might not be everyone's cup of tea, it's all part of the charm. All in all, if you're a fan of classic cars, 70s nostalgia, or just want to feel like a part of the Bundy family, this 1975 Plymouth Duster is definitely worth checking out. Who knows? It might just be the missing piece to your car collection puzzle. 2. We've got a real treat for you, a 1970 Mercury Cougar that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This is a true collector's item, and it's coming from an estate sale, which means it's been in the hands of a senior owner who clearly cherished this beauty. Now, let's talk about the price. At $800-900, it might seem a bit steep, but when you consider the rarity and the condition of this Cougar, it's actually a pretty sweet deal. The seller even mentions that it's priced low to sell quickly, so if you're interested, you better act fast. One of the coolest things about this Cougar is its history. It was originally purchased brand new at Black Cat Motors in Burnaby, BC, and it comes with extra original parts, manuals, and even a full set of 5 original Cougar hubcaps. That's the kind of stuff that really gets collectors excited. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 351 motor with dual exhaust, which means this cat can really purr. And with just 35,000 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this Cougar has been well maintained over the years. Now, the seller does mention that there's a little bit of bubbling here and there on the body, but that's to be expected with a car that's over 50 years old. The important thing is that it's a solid car overall, and the interior is said to be in nice condition. As for the paint color, it's a classic brown that really showcases the lines and curves of this vintage ride. It might not be everyone's favorite shade, but it's definitely period correct and adds to the overall charm of the car. In the end, if you're looking for a rare and collectible classic car that's been well loved and cared for over the years, this 1970 Mercury Cougar is definitely worth checking out. With its powerful engine, low mileage, and extra original parts, it's the kind of find that doesn't come around very often. So, if you've got the cash and the garage space, why not take a chance on this cool cat? 3. We've got a real beast of a machine to talk about. A 1974 Dodge Charger SE that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is not for the faint of heart. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $11,500 for this bad boy, which might seem like a lot, but when you consider all the work that's gone into it and the parts that come with it, it's actually a pretty solid deal. Now let's dive into the details. This Charger is packing a massive 400 big block engine and a 727 transmission, which means it's got plenty of power to spare. And with a Dana 60 rear end with a Detroit locker sure grip and 410 gears, this thing can do some serious burnouts. The seller has put a ton of work into this car during the pandemic, including rebuilding the front and rear suspension with polyurethane bushings, installing new ball joints, and even adding a rear sway bar. The result is a car that drives straight as an arrow after an alignment. Under the hood, you'll find a new water pump, radiator, belts, and a rebuilt 650 CFM Edelbrock carburetor. The engine has also been fitted with a new dipstick and timing chain, and it's running like a top. And with an 8QT oil pan and royal purple 5W30 oil, you know this thing is being well lubricated. The brakes have also been upgraded with Willwood discs on the front and new discs on the rear, so you can stop on a dime. And the electrics and wiring have been gone through with a fine-toothed comb, with clean soldering and shielding throughout. As for the exterior, this Charger is rocking some seriously cool 70s slotted mag wheels with Cooper Cobras all around. And while there is some rust in a few spots, the seller has taken care of the worst of it, including replacing the roof, which was originally a sunroof car, and treating the trunk and floor pans with Por 15 to prevent any further rust. Inside, you'll find a rally dash and a deluxe leather-covered steering wheel, as well as recovered seats, although the seller had to use some vinyl dye to get rid of the previous owner's questionable orange buttons and piping. Now, the seller does admit that there are a few small issues, like the brake lights needing some attention and a small section of the trunk pan that needs patching. But overall, this Charger is a solid car with a ton of potential. And here's the kicker. For the asking price, the seller is throwing in a ton of extra parts, including chrome trim, additional deck lids, a 72 hood, full interior, center console, new carpet set, new door and trunk rubber seals, and even machine gun exhaust tips. It's like getting a whole second car for free. 4. We've got a real gem to talk about, a 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix that's up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true survivor. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $9,200 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the work that's gone into it and the potential it has, it's actually a pretty fair deal. Now, let's dive into the details. This Grand Prix has been sitting in a garage since 2005, which means it's been protected from the elements and has likely held up pretty well over the years. The seller mentions that the motor and transmission have been rebuilt, with a 400 cubic inch engine and a turbo 400 transmission. That's a seriously powerful combo that's sure to get your heart racing. The seller also notes that the car runs and shifts strong, which is always a good sign. And with new tires, you won't have to worry about any unexpected blowouts or flats. Inside, you'll find bucket seats, power windows, a console floor shift, a tilt column, and power disc brakes. These are all seriously cool features that were cutting edge back in 1969, and they're still impressive today. Now, the seller does mention that this Grand Prix would make a great restoration project, which suggests that there may be some work that needs to be done. But they also note that you could drive it as is, which means it's likely in pretty decent shape overall. One thing that's really impressive is that the seller has changed all the fluids, which shows that they've been taking good care of this car even though it's been sitting for a while. As for the exterior, the black paint job looks seriously sleek and sinister. It's the kind of color that never goes out of style and always turns heads on the street. Overall, this 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix is a seriously cool car with a ton of potential. Whether you're looking for a fun weekend cruiser or a full-on restoration project, this thing has a lot to offer. And with its powerful engine, impressive features, and classic good looks, it's sure to be a hit wherever you go. 5. We've got a real beauty to talk about. A 1976 Chevrolet Camaro that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true time capsule. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $10,000 for this Camaro, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the condition it's in and all the original features it has, it's actually a pretty fair deal. Plus, The seller is open to trades, so if you've got something cool to offer, who knows what kind of deal you could make. Now, let's dive into the details. This Camaro has had only 2 owners in its lifetime, and the current seller bought it from a guy in Oregon who got it from the original owner, who was a lady. That means this car has likely been well cared for and hasn't been thrashed around like some other muscle cars out there. One of the coolest things about this Camaro is that it's a factory AC car, which is a seriously rare find. And speaking of rare, check out that white leather interior. It's in amazing condition and looks seriously sharp against the exterior. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 350 cubic inch engine with a small RV cam that was done about 5 years ago. The seller doesn't mention how much power it's putting out, but with a cam like that, you can bet it's got some serious grunt. And with a factory 350 transmission that shifts perfectly, and a 373 Posey rear end, this thing is ready to hit the road. The seller has also done a ton of work to make sure this Camaro is in top condition. They've installed a brand new exhaust system from the headers back, as well as all new brakes and front coils. The power steering has been rebuilt, and everything in the front end has been gone through and refreshed. Inside, you'll find a ton of original features that are all in working order. The power windows and door locks work like a charm, the heat is amazing, and even the windshield wipers and high-low beams are functioning perfectly. There's also a tilt steering column and a defrost system for the windows. As for creature comforts, this Camaro has a seriously cool tape deck with a 5-disc changer in the trunk, and all the gauges in the cluster are working, so you can keep an eye on everything while you're cruising down the road. Overall, this 1976 Chevrolet Camaro is a seriously impressive car. It's got a ton of original features, a rebuilt engine and transmission, and a seriously cool white leather interior. Plus, with all the recent work that's been done, you can bet it's ready to hit the road and turn some heads. 6. We've got a real treat for you. A 1953 Nash Ambassador that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true classic. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $12,000 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the condition it's in and all the work that's gone into it, it's actually a pretty fair deal. Plus, the seller is open to trades for a Rolex or a convertible Mercedes, so if you've got something cool to offer, who knows what kind of deal you could make. Now let's dive into the details. This Nash has only 53,000 miles on the odometer, which is seriously low for a car that's almost 70 years old. And it's been fully restored, so you can bet it looks just as good as it did when it rolled off the assembly line. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that runs like a top. The seller doesn't mention how much power it's putting out, but with a car like this, it's more about the cruising experience than the raw horsepower. One of the coolest features of this Nash is the dummy spotlights on the front fenders. They give the car a seriously cool vintage look and are sure to turn heads wherever you go. And speaking of turning heads, check out those fender skirts. They're the perfect finishing touch to the car's classic styling. Inside, the car has been fully redone with a new headliner and reupholstered seats and door panels. The original radio is still in place and working perfectly, which is a testament to the quality of the restoration work. The seller has also made some smart upgrades to the car, like installing an aluminum radiator to keep things cool on hot summer days. And with a manual transmission, you'll have full control over the car's performance. As for the exterior, the blue paint job is in excellent condition and really makes the car's classic lines pop. And with the car always being garaged indoors, you can bet it's been protected from the elements and looks just as good as the day it was restored. Overall, this 1953 Nash Ambassador is a seriously impressive car. It's got a ton of classic style, a fully restored interior and exterior, and some smart upgrades that make it a great choice for cruising around town. Plus, With only 53,000 miles on the odometer, it's got plenty of life left in it. 7. We've got a real gem to talk about, a 1963 Chevrolet Corvair Monza convertible that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true classic. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $8,500 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the rarity and uniqueness of this car, it's actually a pretty fair deal. I mean, how often do you come across a classic Corvair Monza convertible in good condition? Now let's dive into the details. This Corvair is powered by a 164 turbo air-cooled 6-cylinder engine that puts out a respectable 140 horsepower. And with the engine mounted in the rear, you can bet this thing handles like a dream. Plus, with a 2-speed Powerglide automatic transmission, you won't have to worry about shifting gears while you're cruising down the road. One of the coolest features of this Corvair is the manual convertible top. There's just something about driving a classic convertible with the top down that feels so freeing and exhilarating. And with a newer top installed, you won't have to worry about any leaks or tears. Inside, the car has its original interior, which is a testament to how well it's been cared for over the years. The seller has even added newer carpet to freshen things up a bit. And with manual steering and brakes, you'll really get to feel the road and have full control over the car's performance. As for the exterior, the body and paint are in good condition, which is impressive for a car that's almost 60 years old. The white paint job is classic and timeless, and really makes the car's unique styling stand out. And with newer tires installed, you can bet this thing rides like a dream. The seller notes that the car starts and runs well, which is always a good sign. And with 85,000 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this Corvair has been enjoyed, but not overused. Overall, this 1963 Chevrolet Corvair Monza convertible is a seriously cool car. It's got a unique rear engine design, a classic convertible top, and a ton of original charm. Plus, with its good condition and fair asking price, it's a great opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 8. We've got a real treat for you, a 1956 Oldsmobile 88 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true classic. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $11,000 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the rarity and condition of this car, it's actually a pretty amazing deal. The seller even mentions that this is a 15K 20K vehicle running or not, so you know you're getting a bargain. Now let's dive into the details. This Oldsmobile is powered by the legendary Rocket 324 engine, which is known for its power and reliability. And get this, the motor was recently torn down, cleaned, and reassembled just 250 miles ago. The only thing left to do is tune up the carburetor, and this thing will be running like a top. One of the coolest features of this car is the manual 3-on-the-tree transmission. There's just something about shifting gears yourself that makes driving feel so much more engaging and fun. And with plenty of life left in the clutch, you won't have to worry about any slipping or sticking. The car has just 50,000 miles on the odometer, which is incredibly low for a vehicle of this age. And the best part? The paint and interior are all original, which is a testament to how well this car has been cared for over the years. The seller rates the overall condition of the car as a 7 out of 10, which is pretty darn impressive for a 65-year-old vehicle. Sure, it might need a little work to be a perfect show car, but it's not far off. And with all the lights, brakes, turn signals, and interior lights working properly, you can tell this car has been well maintained. The seller mentions that they purchased the vehicle nearly 3 years ago from a good friend and have loved owning and driving it. But unfortunately, they no longer have the storage space to keep it and are reluctantly letting it go. It's always tough to say goodbye to a classic car like this, but it's clear that the seller wants it to go to a good home. Overall, this 1956 Oldsmobile 88 is a seriously cool car. It's got a powerful engine, a unique transmission, and a ton of original charm. Plus, with its low mileage and good condition, it's a great opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 9. We've got a real blast from the past to talk about, a 1972 Buick Electra 225 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true survivor. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller's asking $6,500 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the low mileage and the fact that it's being sold as part of an estate sale, it's actually a pretty fair deal. I mean, how often do you come across a classic car like this with just 52,000 original miles? Now, let's dive into the details. This Electra is powered by a massive 455 big block engine, which is known for its smooth power delivery and effortless cruising ability. And with no smog check needed, you won't have to worry about any pesky emissions tests. The car was originally owned by just one person and has been garaged for most of its life, which explains the low mileage and good overall condition. The seller even mentions that it has a new battery and registration that's good until May, so you won't have to worry about any immediate expenses. As for the exterior, the blue paint job looks pretty darn good in the photos. It's not perfect, but it's certainly presentable and has a nice shine to it. And with those classic Buick lines and chrome accents, this thing is sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Now, it's worth noting that the car does have a salvage title, which means it's likely been in an accident or sustained some sort of damage at some point in its life. The seller doesn't provide any details on this, so it's definitely something to keep in mind and investigate further if you're serious about buying the car. The seller also mentions that the car is being sold as is, which means you'll be responsible for any repairs or upgrades it might need. But honestly, with a car like this, half the fun is tinkering with it and making it your own. Overall, this 1972 Buick Electra 225 is a seriously cool car. It's got a big block engine, low mileage, and a ton of classic style. Plus, with its one-owner history and garage-kept condition, it's a great opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 10. We've got a real icon of the muscle car era to talk about, a 1979 Pontiac Trans Am that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true survivor. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $14,900 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the rarity and desirability of these cars, especially with a big block engine under the hood, it's actually not too far off the mark. These Trans Ams have been steadily increasing in value over the years, and finding one in good condition is getting harder and harder. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller mentions that this Trans Am has a big block engine, which is definitely a plus for any muscle car enthusiast. These engines are known for their raw power and throaty exhaust note, and they're sure to put a smile on your face every time you hit the gas. The seller also notes that the car has no rust, which is a big deal for a vehicle of this age. Rust is the enemy of any classic car, and finding one that's been spared from its ravages is always a good sign. However, the seller does mention that the car needs some TLC, so it's definitely not a perfect specimen. One thing to keep in mind is that the odometer is broken, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. The seller states that it has 180,000 miles on it, but without a working odometer, it's impossible to verify. This is definitely something to consider when evaluating the overall condition and value of the car. On the bright side, the seller mentions that the car comes with new rims and tires, which is always a nice bonus. They even have a brand new set of original rims included in the sale, which is a great option for anyone looking to restore the car to its original glory. As for the overall condition, the seller is upfront about the fact that the car needs some work. They don't go into specifics, but it's clear that this Trans Am isn't a show-ready vehicle. However, the fact that it runs and drives is definitely a good sign. and with some elbow grease and a bit of cash, it could be brought back to its former glory. Overall, this 1979 Pontiac Trans Am is a seriously cool car. It's got a big block engine, no rust, and a ton of potential. Plus, with its iconic styling and legendary performance, it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. 11. We've got a real gem from the disco era to talk about, a 1977 Chrysler Cordoba that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true time capsule. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $14,000 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the amount of work and restoration that's gone into this car, as well as its rust-free New Mexico origins, it starts to make a lot more sense. These Cordobas are getting harder and harder to find in good condition, and this one seems to have been cherished by the same family since it was new. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller mentions that the car has a rebuilt 360 motor and 904 transmission, which is a great sign. With only about 3,000 miles on the rebuild, you can bet that this thing runs like a top. The headers and dual exhaust are also nice touches that give the car a little extra growl and performance. One of the coolest things about this Cordoba is the amount of custom work that's gone into it. The firewall has been shaved and the wiring has been hidden under the hood, giving the engine bay a really clean and modern look. The bumpers have also been shaved and re-chromed, which is a nice touch that really makes the car stand out. Inside, the car has been treated to new upholstery, which is always a plus in a classic car. The seller doesn't mention what color or material the new upholstery is, but based on the photos, it looks like a nice neutral tone that complements the car's exterior. Now, it's worth noting that the air conditioner is not currently hooked up, which could be a bit of a bummer for some buyers. However, the seller is upfront about this, and it's definitely something that could be addressed down the line if desired. As for the overall condition, the seller describes this Cordoba as a great cruiser, and based on the photos and description, it's easy to see why. With its rust-free body, rebuilt mechanicals, and custom touches, this thing is ready to hit the road and turn some heads. The seller also mentions that they're open to accepting cryptocurrency as payment, which is a cool option for any tech-savvy buyers out there. Overall, this 1977 Chrysler Cordoba is a seriously cool car. It's got a great backstory, a ton of custom work, and a rebuilt drivetrain that should keep it running strong for years to come. Plus, with its iconic styling and luxurious interior, it's sure to make a statement wherever it goes. 12. We've got a real classic to talk about, a 1965 Ford Mustang that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing has some serious potential. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $13,500 cash for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the iconic status of the '65 Mustang and the potential for restoration, it starts to make a bit more sense. These cars are only going to continue to increase in value as time goes on, so if you're looking for a solid investment, this could be a great option. Now let's dive into the details. The seller describes this Mustang as being in decent condition, which is a bit vague, but promising nonetheless. They do mention that the car needs some brake and steering work to be a driver, which is definitely something to keep in mind if you're looking for a turnkey classic. However, they also note that not much needs to be done to make this thing an awesome classic, so it's clear that the bones are there. Under the hood, you'll find a 289 V8 motor, which is a great engine for this era of Mustang. The seller doesn't mention any specifics about the engine's condition or performance, but they do note that the car runs well, which is always a good sign. One thing to keep in mind is that the odometer is broken, so the actual mileage of the car is unknown. This is definitely something to consider when evaluating the overall condition and value of the car, as high mileage can definitely take its toll on a classic like this. The seller also mentions that the car was in storage for 6 years before they acquired it from an estate sale. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how well the car was stored and maintained during that time. It's definitely something to investigate further if you're serious about making an offer. As for the overall appearance of the car, the seller doesn't provide a ton of details or photos. However, based on the one photo included in the ad, it looks like the car has a nice classic Mustang look with a bit of patina. The color appears to be a light blue or green, which is a nice change of pace from the more common red or black Mustangs out there. The seller is available to show the car on weekends, which is great for anyone with a busy schedule during the week. Just be sure to email them to set up a time to see it in person and get a better sense of its overall condition. Overall, this 1965 Ford Mustang is a seriously cool car with a ton of potential. It's got a classic look, a desirable engine, and a relatively reasonable asking price considering its iconic status. Sure, it needs some work to be a driver, but that's all part of the fun of owning a classic car like this. 13. We've got a real beauty to talk about, a 1965 Oldsmobile Delta 88 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a true survivor. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $9,500 or best offer for this gorgeous machine, which is a pretty fair deal considering the work that's gone into it. The seller also mentions that they're open to possible trades, so if you've got something cool to offer up, it might be worth shooting your shot. Now let's dive into the details. The seller notes that this Delta 88 has a newly rebuilt engine with 0 miles on it, which is a huge selling point. They've also replaced a ton of essential components, including the alternator, fuel pump, water pump, battery, and starter. This shows that they've really gone the extra mile to ensure that this car is running in tip-top shape. The odometer reading is listed at just 11,818 miles, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. However, it's important to keep in mind that with a rebuilt engine, the actual mileage of the car is likely much higher. Still, the low odometer reading is a testament to how well this car has been cared for over the years. The seller describes the overall condition of the car as good, which is always a positive sign. They don't go into a ton of detail about the specifics of the car's condition, but based on the photos, it looks like the exterior is in great shape. The black paint job is shiny and smooth, and the chrome trim is gleaming. It's clear that this car has been well maintained and loved throughout its life. As for the interior, the seller doesn't provide any photos or details, so it's hard to say for sure what kind of shape it's in. However, given the overall condition of the car and the work that's gone into the mechanical components, it's likely that the interior is in decent shape as well. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's sure to provide plenty of get up and go. The seller doesn't specify which engine this is, but based on the year and model of the car, it's likely either a 425 Ci or a 455 Ci big block. Either way, you can bet that this thing has some serious muscle. The transmission is listed as an automatic, which is a great option for cruising around town or hitting the highway, and with rear-wheel drive, you'll get that classic muscle car feel that's sure to put a smile on your face. Overall, this 1965 Oldsmobile Delta 88 is a seriously cool car that's ready for its next adventure. With a newly rebuilt engine, tons of new mechanical components, and a clean title, it's the kind of car that you can jump in and enjoy right away. Plus, with its classic good looks and powerful engine, it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. 14. We've got an absolute stunner to talk about. A 1966 Cadillac Fleetwood that's currently for sale on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is the definition of luxury and style. First off, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $12,900 for this beauty, which might seem like a lot at first glance. But when you consider the rarity, condition, and provenance of this car, it starts to look like an absolute bargain. 66. Fleetwoods in this kind of shape don't come around very often, so if you're in the market for a true classic, this one is definitely worth a closer look. Now, let's dive into the details. The seller notes that this Fleetwood is an original car that's never been restored, which is a huge selling point for collectors and enthusiasts. It's only had 2 owners in its lifetime, and it's racked up just 48,000 miles over the years. That's an incredibly low number for a car of this age, and it's a testament to how well it's been cared for. The overall condition of the car is described as excellent, and based on the photos, it's easy to see why. The white paint job is pristine and shiny, with no signs of fading or damage. The chrome trim is gleaming and looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. It's clear that this car has been meticulously maintained and loved throughout its life. The seller also notes that everything on the car works, which is always a big plus. From the power windows to the air conditioning to the radio, all the creature comforts and amenities are in full working order. This is the kind of car that you can jump in and enjoy right away, without any fussing or tinkering required. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 8-cylinder engine that's ready to provide all the power and smooth performance you'd expect from a Cadillac. The transmission is an automatic, which is the perfect choice for a car like this. And with rear-wheel drive, you'll get that classic American luxury car feel that's impossible to replicate with modern vehicles. As for the interior, the seller doesn't provide any photos, but they do note that the car is clean as a pin. Given the overall condition of the exterior and the low mileage, it's safe to assume that the interior is in equally great shape. Cadillacs of this era were known for their plush, comfortable interiors, and this one is likely no exception. Perhaps most importantly, the seller notes that this Fleetwood has no rust, which is a huge deal for a car of this age. Rust is the enemy of classic cars, and finding one that's been spared its ravages is like hitting the jackpot. This car has clearly been stored and maintained properly, and it shows in its incredible condition. Overall, this 1966 Cadillac Fleetwood is an absolute dream car. It's got style, luxury, and a level of preservation that's hard to find in a vehicle of this vintage. Whether you're a serious collector or just someone who appreciates the finer things in life, this car is sure to impress. 15. We've got a real treat for you, a 1964 Ford Ranchero that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $14,900, and let me tell you, it's worth every penny. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is this car really in as good of a condition as the seller claims? Well, based on the description provided, it seems like this Ranchero is the real deal. The seller mentions that it's in excellent condition, and I have no reason to doubt their sincerity. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 289 V8 engine paired with a smooth 3-speed automatic transmission. And get this, the odometer shows just 51,000 miles. That's incredibly low mileage for a classic car like this. The seller also notes that the Ranchero starts, runs, and idles perfectly every time, which is a testament to the care and attention it's received over the years. And if you're looking for a fun driving experience, this car definitely delivers. Moving on to the interior, you'll be pleased to find a nice black setup with new carpet and upholstery. Plus, there's an upgraded stereo system to keep you entertained on those long drives. As for the exterior, the seller mentions that there's no body rust, just a slight surface rust. The chrome, body, doors, windows, bed, and tailgate are all in great shape, and there's even new rubber on the windows. Now here's an interesting tidbit. This Ranchero was originally a 6-cylinder vehicle, but it's undergone some serious upgrades. The seller has put in around $20,000 in receipts to upgrade it to a V8, including work on the suspension, drivetrain, and transmission. And all of this work has been completed in the last 5,000 miles, so you know it's fresh. To top it all off, this Ranchero is riding on period-correct Krager mags with less than 5,000 miles on the 14-inch tires. It's a very nice vehicle overall, and I have no doubt that it'll make its new owner very happy. So if you're in the market for a classic car with plenty of power, style, and character, this 1964 Ford Ranchero might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 16. We're taking a closer look at a real gem, a 1981 Lincoln Town car that's up for sale on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at just $3,900, and from what I can see in the description, it's an absolute steal. First off, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller mentions that it's in excellent shape, and based on the information provided, I have no reason to doubt that claim. It's always important to be sincere and honest when describing a car's condition, and it seems like the seller is being upfront about this town car's impressive state. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine, which is exactly what you'd expect from a classic American luxury car like this. The odometer shows 98,500 miles, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age and suggests that it's been well maintained over the years. The seller also notes that the car runs amazingly well and that everything works as it should. This is a testament to the care and attention that the previous owner, the seller's father-in-law, has given to this car for the past 20+ years. Moving on to the exterior, this town car is finished in a stunning red paint color that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. The seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the paint or body, but given the overall excellent condition of the car, I would expect it to be in great shape. Now, here's where things get interesting. The seller mentions that this car is part of an estate sale, which means that it's being sold as part of the settlement of someone's estate. This could be a great opportunity for a buyer to get a fantastic deal on a well-maintained classic car. If you're interested in this 1981 Lincoln Town car, the seller encourages you to call Nina directly to ask any questions you might have and to see the car in person. It's currently located in Southern Highlands Ranch in Las Vegas, NV. So if you're in the area, it's definitely worth checking out. Overall, this 1981 Lincoln Town car seems like an excellent opportunity to own a piece of classic American luxury at a very reasonable price. With its powerful engine, low mileage, and excellent condition, it's sure to provide its new owner with plenty of enjoyment for years to come. Don't miss out on this chance to own a true classic. 17. We've got an incredible opportunity for you. A 1965 Buick Electra that's currently up for sale on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $14,000, and let me tell you, it's an absolute steal for what you're getting. First off, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller mentions that it's in good shape, and based on the information provided, I have no reason to doubt that claim. It's always important to be sincere and honest when describing a car's condition, and it seems like the seller is being upfront about this Electra's impressive state. One of the most notable things about this car is its incredibly low mileage, just 59,000 original miles. That's practically unheard of for a car that's over 50 years old, and it's a testament to the care and attention that this Electra has received over the years. Under the hood, you'll find the famous 401 Nailhead Wildcat 445 engine, which is numbers matching to the car. This means that the engine is the original one that came with the car from the factory, which is a huge plus for collectors and enthusiasts. The transmission and rear end are also original, making this a true time capsule of a car. The seller also mentions that this Electra is a very clean, accident-free, and rust-free example, which is incredibly important for a car of this age. Rust can be a real problem for classic cars, so the fact that this one is rust-free is a huge selling point. Moving on to the exterior, the seller notes that this Electra has a custom paint color, which looks absolutely stunning in the photos. The body style of the '65 Electra is an iconic one, and this car looks like it's straight out of a time machine. The seller also mentions that this is a straight-up sale with no additional sales taxes or fees, which is always a plus. And with the seller's 100% positive feedback and Power Seller achievement on eBay, you can rest assured that you're dealing with a reputable seller who stands behind their product. Overall, this 1965 Buick Electra is an incredible opportunity to own a piece of American automotive history. With its low mileage, numbers-matching engine, clean and clear title, and rust-free body, it's a car that's sure to turn heads and appreciate in value over time. If you're in the market for a classic car that's both beautiful and mechanically sound, this Electra is definitely worth checking out. Don't miss out on this chance to own a true icon of the 1960s. 18. Buckle up, because I've got an absolute gem to share with you today from the wild world of Craigslist. We're talking about a 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu that's currently up for grabs at $7,500. Now, I'll be straight with you. This isn't a showroom-ready beauty, but it's got a story that'll make any classic car lover's heart race. This Chevelle is the definition of a barn find, folks. It's been sitting pretty since 1992 until a couple of years ago, when it was finally rescued from its slumber. Now, I've got to be honest, it's seen better days. The seller admits it's in fair condition, and there's some damage to the rear driver's door and quarter panel. But hey, that's just part of its charm, right? Under the hood, we've got the original 283 V8 paired with a Powerglide automatic transmission. It's a no-frills machine, no power anything, just like Grandma used to drive. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but it's rolled over, so take that with a grain of salt. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. This Chevelle needs some serious TLC. There's rust in the usual spots, and the trunk floor's seen better days. The interior? Well, let's just say it hosted a few generations of mice, but the seller's done their best to clean it up. On the bright side, you're getting new brakes and front steering components with the deal. Here's the kicker. There's no title, no keys, and it doesn't run. But for the right person, this is a dream project car. It's incredibly original, which is rare for a Chevelle these days. If you're looking to channel your inner vice grip garage, this could be your ticket to automotive glory. So there you have it, folks. A true time capsule waiting for the right enthusiast to bring it back to life. It might not be perfect, but at $7,500, it could be the start of an amazing restoration journey. Who's ready to save this piece of American muscle car history? 19. We're diving into a real gem from the Craigslist treasure trove, a 1953 Studebaker Commander Starliner that's up for grabs at $10,500. Now, let me tell you, this isn't just any old classic, it's a piece of automotive history that's been lovingly cared for over the past 2 decades. This Commander is rocking its original 232 V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission, making it a smooth cruiser that's perfect for your weekend joyrides. The seller's been using it as a daily driver, which speaks volumes about its reliability. They've put in some work to keep it roadworthy too, with new brake shoes, a fresh master cylinder, and new rear wheel bearings. Now I've got to be straight with you. This Studebaker isn't perfect, but that's part of its charm. The interior's seen better days, and the chrome is showing its age. There's also some rust creeping in along the passenger side rocker panel just below the door. But hey, that's to be expected from a car that's pushing 70 years old, right? The odometer's rolled over, showing 147,000 miles. But with classic cars like this, it's more about the overall condition than the mileage. And speaking of condition, the seller rates it as good, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle of this vintage. One of the best things about this Starliner is its originality. In a world where so many classics have been modified beyond recognition, it's refreshing to see one that stayed true to its roots. Plus, it comes with a clean title and current registration, so you won't have any headaches when it comes to paperwork. At $10,500, this Studebaker Commander represents a fantastic opportunity to own a unique piece of 1950s Americana. It's not often you see these on the road, and with some TLC, you could have a real head-turner on your hands. So, if you're in the market for a classic that stands out from the crowd and has a story to tell, this 1953 Studebaker Commander Starliner might just be the ride you've been waiting for. Remember, folks, they don't make them like this anymore. 20. We're taking a look at a real gem from the Craigslist archives, a 1962 Ford Fairlane that's up for grabs at $8,000. Now let me tell you, this isn't just any old classic. It's a piece of Ford history that's been lovingly cared for over the past 12 years by its current owner. This Fairlane has got some interesting modifications that make it stand out from the crowd. The original 260 engine has been swapped out for a more powerful 302, paired with a 4-speed automatic transmission from an '84 Mustang. That's a combo that should give this classic some serious get up and go once it's back on the road. Now, I've got to be straight with you. This Ford isn't currently running. The seller mentions it's not getting gas to the carburetor due to a clogged fuel line. But hey, for you DIY mechanics out there, that sounds like a relatively straightforward fix, right? And the good news is, it was running and driving just a few years ago, so it shouldn't be too far from hitting the streets again. On the plus side, this Fairlane has been garage kept for over a decade, which has surely helped preserve its condition. It's got some nice upgrades like power steering, new wheels, and tires. And for you originality buffs, it even comes with the original owner's manual, a nice touch that adds to its historical value. The odometer shows 142 miles, but with classic cars like this, it's more about the overall condition than the mileage. Speaking of condition, the seller rates it as good, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle pushing 60 years old. At $8,000, this 1962 Ford Fairlane represents an interesting opportunity for someone looking for a project car with potential. It's got a clean title, a desirable V8 engine, and that classic early 60s styling that never goes out of fashion. So, if you're in the market for a classic Ford that's been well cared for, but needs a bit of TLC to get back on the road, this Fairlane might just be the ticket. Remember, folks, they don't make them like this anymore. With a little elbow grease, you could have a real head-turner on your hands. Who's ready to bring this piece of American automotive history back to life?